China is draining liquidity out of crypto. Today, we'll break it down for you because this is going to indicate where this market could be going. I want to thank our sponsor today, and of course, that is Uphold. If you are holding crypto right now and not earning rewards, you're essentially leaving money on the table. And the reality is, in today's market, you need to be able to move instantly. That's why Uphold's flexible staking is such a game changer. You can earn weekly rewards automatically on assets you already hold without a lockup. That's most important. You can sell anytime. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to grow their holdings without losing their exit strategy. Download the Uphold app today and try it for yourself. Let's just get right into it. I want to start with this right here. And this is the chart of the Shanghai Composite Stock Market Index. What you're seeing here is a little bit of downtrend. Yes, a little bit of a spike right here. And I think the point being is what's going on right here. And that is, are U.S. investors dumping Chinese equities? Well, if you look at it, it appears that maybe that's happening, right? On the face of this, it looks like it, right? Everybody sees those tickers. They're concerned about getting delisted from Trump. And the thing is that this now can easily be sorted through Hong Kong instead. So that means that the U.S. can essentially get, it's only a U.S. listed wrapper. Remember, this is what they're concerned with. So if that exit is happening, the money can now go in through Hong Kong. And if you look at this point right here, this is what I'm calling the Chinese pump team, because they're injecting 60 billion in yuan. This of course came in July. And this was deploying about 60 billion in yuan, 8.9 billion through stock rebuybacks on facilities. And you would think, okay, that's one strategy. But then again, this is accelerated into just now. Right there, you have the PBOC also adding more operations and more funding into this. Remember, China is tapping $28 trillion markets right here to fund a lot of what's happening with the AI race with the U.S., and that, I think, is why we're seeing this. So you can compare what's happening not only with the AI liquidity, but now you have to look at the first trigger. So what market could affect AI the most? Well, most of it's going to be the chip makers, and that's where CXMT comes into play, a 466% market debut surge. This essentially is the SpaceX of China, I guess, because CXMT has now surpassed Tencent in market cap. This is just 2 weeks after its listing. Tencent's been on the market for years and has been growing, and now it's becoming the most valuable company across all of mainland China and Hong Kong. So to my point, very significant here. If you look on Hyperliquid, CXMT, this is on the hourly. Look at this dry end, and you can see very strategic times in which we get capital injection. Very strategic. This is all, I believe, orchestrated by these pump teams that are being developed around the world in reality, if you think about it. And if you look at their AI structure right now, I'll kind of zone in on this right here. This is, of course, China's Kimi AI. This, of course, scanned nearly all of Bitcoin's open source code. This flagged 8,000 different flaws. So now you've got Chinese AI basically outpacing what we're seeing in the US, or maybe we just haven't released this kind of data, but the Bitcoin Red Team now has covered 501 projects, 1,280 critical, and now you've got Kimi coming in and saying, oh, no problem, hold our beer, because this is now happening with 8,000 flaws with Bitcoin. So this is a concern that I think will continue to drive into the market in general. And within that, you're going to have to fight fire with fire. So you have the Fed opening the liquidity faucet and grabbing liquidity on Alphabet, especially around the AI complex. If you think about this too, remember, we just did a show this week where we talked about Warren Buffett coming off the sidelines. And what did he come off the sidelines for? Alphabet. So is he a private pump team for what's happening with the Fed, which is the other pump team who's battling the pump team in China? All of this is starting to look very eerie. And then, of course, you look at the balance sheet right here is this little bit right here, a little bit of our little baby pump that's working within these markets. So speaking of how this is happening, well, you look at the VC money and all of the investment capital that's moving into crypto. In the past, it had been very significant. AI is quietly taking over the crypto sector. AI startups right now raised in 2026 510 billion, and crypto startups raised 13 billion. All right, so think about that. That's the chart right there, guys. I can't even, you can barely even see crypto on the chart, but that's my point, is it is thwarting it completely, and it is exactly why we have continued to see a bleed of the crypto asset market flowing into this. And further, to add further insult to injury, you've got Apple out there with their own pump team that seems to be pumping for China, because now they're doing a whole AI model internally with Alibaba's support. This, of course, is Apple's training its own China-specific AI model. So I'm assuming this is for the Chinese products. I'm assuming that Tim and President Trump have talked about this, but we'll see. Let's go over to another topic, and that is China's internationalizing their gold-backed yuan and their payment system, first time ever. And if you go down all the way on Stern Drew, he's talking about a very specific area here. Soon as China banned retail paper gold market, the Chinese investors turned to tokenized gold on blockchains. That is why we could see an attack essentially on fiat in general, especially the US dollar as the global reserve. Because here's the plan. China is taking the yuan international, first time ever, and the preparation includes physical gold vaults, clearing, and then they're trading in Hong Kong. And we're having to basically battle against this. So you have that happening around where the liquidity drain is coming from AI. And now you have the pressure of gold trying to go at the dollar full tilt. The UK's FCA is now also preparing a regulatory framework of tokenized gold, saying, wait a minute, we need a pump team. So they're in there trying to protect London's dominance in bullion around this. And this is all pointing directly at China because of what they're doing. And remember, China has been the scenario that has the most people out there that's probably going into tokenized gold. So this starts to boil up, and it starts to showcase something very interesting. And that was Tether's drop of their news. Tether drops this just out of nowhere. Wasn't on the bingo card. They completed the largest inaugural financial audit in their history. And if you look further into this, I'll zoom in on that part right there. KPMG, the auditor, physically counted and inspected every individual gold bar held by Tether. And you've got Paolo talking about it right here. This is a defining moment for the stablecoin industry. And I would agree, this is a pretty big step because it is going to put a lot of pressure on someone like an Elizabeth Warren, who's always been kind of pointing at this as where the bad guys are. But in reality, this is out there holding assets in a way you wouldn't expect. Let me play a clip right here. Here's Paolo talking about it. Take a look.
Especially with important people like Senator Warren going out and specifically calling out Tether and suggesting that auditors should not touch us with a 10-foot pole. That creates some sort of uncertainty with these auditing firms. In the past, even just the fact that we went with the non-US firm that was in this case doing our attestation, BDO, was a matter of controversy. So we decided to put ourselves through the highest of the possible scrutiny with the KPMG US. If someone cannot admit they're wrong, they will never grow up as a human being. And honestly, I don't care. We proved ourselves many times. We proved ourselves with doing more redemptions in a single day in 24 hours and 48 hours that any other financial institution did in the history of finance. We redeemed $7 billion in 48 hours, when that was 10% of our reserves, when every single financial institution or bank that was subject to 10% or more of redemptions in a short amount of time went belly up. And I'm happy to be kept on my toes.
So from listening to that clip there, the biggest uncertainty cloud that's been hovering over all of us has essentially been lifted, especially around stablecoins. This changes the whole perspective of what Tether is and now will be in the U.S. as a legal U.S. stablecoin available. So a pretty big shift. Let's look at this right now and think about what Tether's this major audit means, because you kind of have to connect the dots here. Let's take a look at Cantor Fitzgerald. This is a company out there led by Howard Lutnick, who is our Commerce Secretary. This guy has a 5% stake in Tether, who, by the way, also has 138 billion in treasury bills that are tied to this. So Now you've got all of this connected to the Treasury, who is now connected to the administration, with Tether now all being approved. So this is, I think, in general is good, but the problem you have is this is now going to circle back to Senator Warren, I'm sure, who is going to look at this and connect the dots on Cantor Fitzgerald, what we're dealing with Lutnick, and then, of course, the whole issue starts again. But I think the point being is we are dealing with a liquidity movement right now globally, and it is definitely starting to shift away from the US dollar. So we're going to continue to follow this very, very closely. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.